Hi everyone. Today our lessons on proportional reasoning with percent. And we're learning, first of all, that percent means out of 100. Hopefully that's something you brought with you from elementary school. So percent meaning out of 100, super important. And we're going to learn to use proportional reasoning, which we've been working on in this unit, to solve problems related to percent. So percent can be expressed as a fraction out of 100, a decimal, a percent, or a ratio. And I kind of did this little graphic here. 25%, if we start down here in the bottom corner, is the same as 25 out of 100, because percent means out of 100. 25 over 100 can be written, that's like a fraction form of a ratio, so it could also be 25 to 100. And then if you divide 25 divided by 100, you get 0.25. So there's 4 representations of 25%. You could say 25%, 0.25, 25 to 100, or 25 over 100, and they all mean the same thing. So we're first going to start by completing this table. So 75% as a fraction, it means 75 out of 100. As a decimal, you can just divide 75 divided by 100, and that gives you 0.75. And then as a ratio, you can write 75 to 100. All right, 15%. So same thing. We're going to say 15 out of 100. Percent means out of 100. 15 divided by 100 is 0.15. Or we can write it as 15 to 100. Okay, a half. So we know we could change this to a decimal by doing 1 divided by 2, which gives us 0.5. Hopefully most of us know that a half is 50%. Like if you got a half of the questions right on a test, you'd have 50%. Or if you didn't know that, you could make an equivalent fraction. So we know percent means out of 100. To get from 2 to 100, you'd have to multiply by 50. And if you didn't know that, you could have done 100 divided by 2, and that gives you 50. So 2 times 50 is 100, 1 times 50 is 50. Okay, another way to get the percentage is always to make it out of 100. And then we could write this as 1 to 2, or that would be simplest form, or we could write it as 50 to 100, and they mean the same thing. They're equivalent ratios, which we've been talking about. So 3 to 100, I would probably fill in the fraction because I know it's 3 over 100 is another way to write it. And then to get the decimal, 3 divided by 100. This is one of the most common mistakes. People write 0.3, but it's actually 0.03, which is a huge difference. So remember that. And then that's only 3%. 3 out of 100 is 3%. Okay? So that's just converting between percent, fraction, decimal, and ratio. And remember again, there's 4 different ways of meaning the same thing. All right, so let's look at some examples of where we connect proportional reasoning and percent. We're going to connect them, okay? The key is to remember that the total of a percent is always 100. So here's an example, a real-life example. Kimmy got 42 out of 56 questions correct on her driver's test. What percent of questions did she get correct? So I like to make this graphic. We kind of call the the whisker graphic here. And this is my percent total, 100%. So at the top here, I have the total. So on this side, this is going to be my percent side of the whisker. And this is going to be my, we'll say this test side, okay? So if she had gotten 100% of the questions right, she would have got 56 questions right. So the total is 100% or 56 questions. She got 42 questions right, which is, if this is 0 down here, 42 is definitely closer to 56. So I would put my little whisker there. She got 42 questions correct, and we want to know what percent that is. That's our unknown, that's our X. Okay, so if we look at what we've just made here, we've made a proportion. Okay, so this becomes our proportion. 100 over X equals 56 over 42. So it's a really visual and graphic way of setting up your proportion. Just don't forget the equals in the middle. That's one thing I notice is there's no equal sign on the graphic, so sometimes people forget the equal sign in the proportion. But we know proportions are equations. So then I find my X and cross. So here I am going X times 56 is 56X. And then 100 times 42, so I can get my calculator. 100 times 42, 4,200. And now I've got this pretty easy one-step equation. 56 times X is 4,200. So I want to know what 1X is worth. And that's going to be the percentage that she got right, the percentage of questions she got correct. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So I get that X is equal to, so I've got my 4,200 already in my calculator. I'm dividing by 56, and I get 75 exactly. So 75%. And because it's a word problem, what percent of questions did she get correct? So therefore, these 3 dots for therefore, Kimmy got 75% of the questions correct. And make sure you answer the question that they asked. Sometimes they'll be sneaky and they'll say, what percent of questions did she get wrong? You could find the amount she got correct and then subtract that from 100, meaning she got 25% wrong. So just, again, reading the question carefully and making sure that in the end you answer it. Okay? All right, here's another example of where we can use proportional reasoning. In Christopher's class, 92% of all the students in the class have internet access at home. If his class has a total, so that word total is really important there. So his class has a total of 25 students. How many students, so here's our question part, how many students have internet access? So here's my graphic again, and here's my percent side. And we know that if all the kids, 100% of the kids in the class had internet, that would be 25 kids. But only 92% of them have access, okay? So 92 is pretty close to 100, so I'm gonna write my little whisker there close to 100. 92% have access, and we wanna know how many students that represents, so that's my X this time. So this graphic sets up my proportion. 100 over 92 is equal to 25 over X. So I'm going to find my X and cross. So 100 times X is 100X. And 92 times 25 5. Again, don't forget that equal sign, most common mistake again. So that's 2,300 if I multiply 92 and 25. Now I have this simple one-step equation to solve, so divide both sides by 100. And that gives us 23. And then just make sure we answer the question, how many students have internet access? So that's 23 students. Only 2 do not have it. So there we go to our therefore statement. Therefore, 23 students have internet at home. Okay, so we use the graphic to set up our proportion, then we solve our proportion, make sure we answer our question correctly. All right, next question. Louise works at a jewelry store. She's paid by commission. And normally I would say, does anyone know what commission means? And commission is where sometimes you just work on straight commission, so you only earn money if you sell things. So maybe like if you worked for a car dealership, you only make money if you sell a car, okay? Or a real estate agent, you only make money if you sell a house or you help someone buy a house. That's called commission, okay? So Louise, she's working at a jewelry store. She's paid by commission. She earns 9.5% of her sales, so that's important. So the more she sells, the more she makes. And that's why a lot of people like commission. And then also, but there's pressure, because if you don't sell anything, you don't make anything. So 1 week she sells $7,290 worth of jewelry. And then the question is, how much did she earn in commission? So what did she earn from selling that much jewelry? So we know the total dollar value of the jewelry that she sold was $7,290. And again, percent out of 100, that's a total. This is a total, the total sales for the week. But she earns 9.5% of what she sells. So that goes on the percent side, but lower towards 0, right? So 9.5% here. And then we want to know what's that dollar amount. So that's my X. So this is going to set up my proportion. So 100 over 9.5 is going to equal 7,290 over X. We're going to find our X and cross. So 100X is 9.5 times 7,290. So 9.5 times 7,290 is 69,255. And then we'll divide both sides by 100. And this is a dollar amount, remember. So whenever you're finding a dollar amount, you want to keep dollars and cents. Okay? So that works out perfectly here. Sorry, you can see my calculator. So she earned $692.55 in commission. $692.55. Oh, sorry, I copied this down wrong. It's $69,000, sorry. $255 or $255. Okay, so then make sure you answer the question, how much did she earn in commission? So again, therefore, Louise earned $692.55 in commission. On the amount of money that the dollar value of the jewelry that she sold. Okay, so we're going to move on where you set up your own graphic now. So again, I'm reading through the question. Chris scored 35% of the basketball team's points. If Chris scored 21 points, how many points did the team score? So if I saw this question, I would set up my percent graphic, knowing that 100%, oh, my pencil just went into lead there. 100% is my total on the percent side. And we know Chris scored 35%, so less than half of the points that were scored in the game for his team. And it also says he scored 21 points, so we know 21 points is 35% of what the team scored. Okay, so if I was doing this, I would say pause the video now and explain to your partner why the 35% and the 21 are on the same whisker. Okay, so Chris scored 21 points, but he also scored 35% of the basketball team points. How many points did the team score? That would be a total for the team, so that's where my X goes. So then you can make your proportion from the graphic. 100 over 35 equals X over 21. Find your X and cross, because in a proportion, cross products are equal. So 35X is going to be 2100, 21 times 100. And then we're going to divide both sides by 35. So 2100 divided by 35, 60. So again, what's that 60? That 60 represents the number of points the team scored together. Okay? So you're answering the question asked, how many points did the team score? Therefore, the team scored 60 points. All right, another type of question you could get. So this is Louis this time. Louis goes to a 20% off sale. 20% off sale. So he's saving money to buy a snowmobile suit. He saves $48 off the regular price. What is the regular price of the snowmobile suit? Okay, so I'm going to make my whisker here. And I know 100% is the total amount of the snowmobile suit. And that's what they're asking me, so that's X. If Louis got 20% off, then if I think how much is he actually paying of the regular price, he's paying 80% of the regular price. Oh, but that's not going to help here. Sorry, guys. We're told that he saves $48. So we're told that 20%, which is his savings, that 20% off represents $48 off, okay? Because it says it's a 20% off sale, and he saves $48 off the regular price, okay? So the 20% off represents he has to pay $48 less for his snowmobile suit. All right, so now we can set our proportion up. 100 over 20 equals X over 48. Find your X and cross. So 20X Don't forget the equal sign in the middle because it's an equation. Proportions are equations. Just they're nice and easy ones to solve. So that's going to be 4,800 divide by 20. Gives me $240. So that would mean that the regular price was $248. Therefore, or sorry, $240. Therefore, the regular price is $240. So that's a decent sale. Let's see what he paid. So if I want to know what he paid, I just subtract $48 off of that. So he had to pay $192, which is a decent savings. Okay, and our last example for today, Mr. Brzee orders 300 calculators. 80% of the shipment arrives. So he orders 300 calculators. 80% of the shipment arrives. Of the calculators that arrive, 2/5 of them are blue and the rest are gray. How many calculators are gray? So there's a lot of info given in this question, and usually when that happens, there's more than one step or more than one proportion. So we're going to start off with the 300 calculators, only 80% arrives. So we're going to figure out how many calculators actually arrived. So here's our first step. So I'm going to make my percent whisker because we're dealing with percentages in this first question. And we know that 100% is a total for percent. And the total number that he ordered was 300 calculators. 80% of the shipment arrived. So we want to know how many of those 300 calculators arrived. So we could make our proportion. 100 over 80 equals 300 over x. Find our x and cross. So 100x equals 80 times 300, which is 24,000. And then to get 1x, we divide by 100. So x is worth 240. So far we know that 240 calculators arrived. Okay, so we'll carry this up and do our second step here. So of the calculators that arrive, 2 out of 5 of them are blue. Okay, so 2 out of 5, so 2 represents blue, 5 represents total, okay? And we just found the total that arrived was 240. Okay, so totals are on the bottom, blue is on the top. Okay? So there we have our second proportion set up. And I didn't make a whisker because I'm not doing a percent here. 2 out of 5 are blue, that's just a ratio. Okay? 2 out of every 5 are blue. Okay, so this is going to tell me how many were blue. And then we'll think about how we could get how many are gray. So I'm going to find my x and cross. So 5x. And then 2 times 240, which is 480. Divide by 5. So I got 96. So that's telling me how many calculators are blue. Okay, so 96 are blue, but that's not what they're asking me. They're asking how many calculators are gray. So of the 240 that arrived, 96 were blue. So if I subtract those, I get 144. And those ones are the gray ones. So therefore, 144 calculators are gray. All right. So once you've got the lesson copied down, the rest of the period you can work on the practice questions with your tutor.